Sky. Believe in better.
Now, Georgina Bailey, the woman at the centre of the BBC prank phone call row, has called for Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand to be fired by the corporation. The presenters made lewd phone calls to her grandfather, the actor Andrew Sachs. But was it just a gag taken too seriously, or do they deserve to be properly punished for crossing the line? Well, Conservative MP Nigel Evans wants both men sacked and the Director General of the BBC to apologise on behalf of the entire corporation. He joins us from Westminster, and absolute DJ Tim Shaw is no stranger to controversy. He's in central London. If I can start with you, Mr. Evans, why should these men be sacked and we receive an apology from the Director General?
Because they have crossed the line. That we have to recognise there is a line here. And I think now, finally, both comedians have recognised that they've done that. Although the Director General, Mark Thompson, who's the man in charge of all of this, he's the man at the very top, and he's still invisible. I find this quite incredible that he has yet to make a statement. And I would say to Mark Thompson that he is now drawing himself perilously close, quite frankly, to all the guns pointing at him. I think that irrespective of where he is today, he should now make a statement as to what's going to happen to these two men. The fact is that the inquiry that's going to go on seems to me going to last 3 weeks before maybe there's a resolution of it. Surely these two people should now be suspended. If this happened anywhere else, you are looking at instant dismissal for people making offensive and abusive phone calls in the way that these two men made that phone call. The fact that you've got now got the granddaughter who is the victim of this phone prank has called for them to be dismissed as well. I would have thought that when the Prime Minister's got time to make an announcement, the Leader of the Opposition has got time to make an announcement, that Ofcom has said that they're going to inquire into it. Where is the Director General? He needs to make a statement soon. He needs to suspend both of them pending this inquiry. And quite frankly, the inquiry should take a matter of days, not a matter of weeks.
Give Mr. Shaw a chance here. Now, Tim Shaw, as no stranger to controversy yourself, you've been sacked a few times, haven't you? Do you think we're making mountains out of molehills here?
Absolutely. This is completely ridiculous. Can everyone just wake up and take a look at actually what happened here? Very little has happened here. The other thing as well is I've been presenting similar shows for 13 years and getting away with it for a while. And let's be honest here, when they've apparently left message on their answer phone, I've done it before, where you record a little bit at the beginning that says, "Hello, I'm Andrew Sachs, I'm not here at the moment, please leave a message after the tone." And if you watch the clip from The Sun this morning, you'll see that Georgina actually says, "My grandfather rang me when he heard about it." I don't think these messages ever actually existed on their answer phone. I cannot believe this has been blown out of proportion to such an extent.
We don't know about that, but do you think it was funny?
I think it was funny, without a doubt. This stuff has been happening for ages. If you go and see a Ricky Gervais show at 10 o'clock at night, you're going to expect swearing, you're going to expect all that kind of stuff. Just because it happened after 10 o'clock, after the watershed, let's be honest here, two people, 100,000th of 1% of the people who listened to it complained about the bad language, nothing else. Everybody is so bothered, such as Nigel, needs to wake up and just go, look, murder, rape, these things should be on the front of newspapers, not some wind-up that genuinely hasn't really upset anyone or hasn't really made anyone have a sleepless night. Or of these 18,000 people, as people are now saying, who have complained, how many of them have heard it, and how many of them are genuinely upset?
I mean, Nigel, what about that dimension? Is it the fact that it's on the BBC? Tim Shaw saying he's done similar things himself. I bet you haven't heard that, and I bet you haven't complained about it.
Well, I hadn't heard of Tim Shaw until today. You're quite right, but I've just read the fact that he's been sacked a couple of times himself for things that I would have said have transgressed the line. Ofcom themselves got involved in one of his pranks.
What is the difference about this being on the BBC?
No, it's not. There's no difference on that. As I say, Tim himself has been sacked a couple of times. The fact is that we're talking about two well-paid celebrities who broadcast a prank which went out to 2 million people. Andrew Sachs himself asked for it not to go out. There was clearly a breakdown in procedures at the BBC, and that's where Mark Thompson comes in, because he should ensure that there are procedures in the BBC that are closely followed. The fact that they broke down has now led to the Ofcom themselves getting involved in this case. So Tim can't just dismiss it to say that he actually thought it was funny.
Nigel, with all due respect, what has this got to do with you, and what's it got to do with 18,000 people who, like you, haven't heard the show? Why are you on this?
Well, I'm a member of the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, Tim. Right. So it's part of my job to look at the BBC. It's in receipt of £3.5 billion worth of taxpayers' money.
Has it upset you? Has it offended you? Has it caused you any dismay whatsoever?
Yeah, actually, yes. And you said it hasn't upset anybody. Georgina herself, the granddaughter, has asked for them both to be sacked. Andrew Sachs himself has said how upset he was.
Okay, so
irrespective of if nobody else had written.
Tim Shaw, the matter is, it's not whether you heard it or not at the actual
time of broadcast. It is exactly
well, listen,
that.
This was recorded.
Right.
The production team presumably looked at it, and we hear that it was then passed on by senior producers there and allowed to be broadcast. It wasn't spur of the moment stuff. This was considered to be okay to be broadcast.
Do you think that the upset that is called Andrew Sachs and his granddaughter is severe enough for the two of them genuinely to be sacked from this?
Do I think? It's not,
yes,
it's not up to me. It's Nigel Evans who's saying.
Let me ask
Nigel. Nigel Evans who's saying.
Absolutely. I mean, this isn't the first time. They both got a bit of form, but the fact is that it was offensive, it was unacceptable. You've now got the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. You've got Ofcom. You've got the BBC's own trust inquiring into it.
It's blown out of proportion.
I appreciate.
Let me put this point to you, Nigel Evans, and it's a point made by Tim Shaw there. What about creativity here? Would we have had Ricky Gervais? Would we have many of those edgy comics, which the BBC, with its resources you mentioned, they're funded by the licence fee, is able to back projects like The Office, which in actual fact wasn't much of a hit when it first started. Now we have created a huge star. You have to allow people to be edgy.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And we know that both of these comedians push the envelope. In fact, Ricky Gervais, very creative comedian himself. But you then have to show to know that there is a line between creativity and offence and abuse. We're bordering on a police investigation here because of the offensive nature of the phone calls. So there is a difference between creativity and what these two so-called comedians got up to.
Nigel, do something good with your time. Sort out this country, and so should Gordon Brown. Step off this small incident, which really should not be on the front page of all newspapers. And I speak on behalf of nearly everyone I spoke to in broadcasting who cannot believe I'm even on telly talking, as you shouldn't be talking about this.
I tell you what,
Get
Tim,
a life.
I've spoken to a number of people who work in broadcasting too, and they are saying, "Good luck, Nigel. Keep on with it." The fact is that they too recognise that if they'd done anything similar to this, that they would have been holding their P45s by now. The fact is that if we do nothing, Tim, then people like you would be able to push the envelope to such an extent
that would be.
Yeah,
Imagine
exactly.
me having to push the envelope. How
Tim,
dreadful that would be.
Let's focus on that, because you have been, as you've written about it
13
yourself.
firings. I've had 13 firings, and I've been fined 4 or 5 times.
Okay. And do you feel that any of them were justified?
Yes, I believe that 2 of them were, and this is why Ofcom have used me in the past. I've been speaking to the head of Ofcom in radio previously, and he said to me they use me as an example now of somebody who knows where the line is, and that's Ofcom saying that. Now, I will say that I do not believe this should be as big as it's got, and it really is something that the likes of Nigel and the Prime Minister of the country should not be wasting his time over something so pathetic. Russell Brand did, as far as we know, sleep with his granddaughter. Yes, there was a one bad word or 2 bad words. Okay, I agree, that should maybe be considered as a breach of Ofcom rules. But the rest of it, the fact that everybody's talking about it around the globe, is a complete example of how stupid we are in this country to be riled by something which really does not frankly matter and does not upset individually any one of us. So everyone should just get over it.
He's got a very big, but 1.8 trillion pounds of debt out there, the financial world burning, and here are you, the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, talking about a phone call to Andrew Sachs.
That's right. Well, the Prime Minister was asked about it, and he responded quite rightly so, I believe. People are tackling, actually, the issues that you've just spoken about. But for us to ignore this, for us to walk away, would mean that broadcasting would be going to the dogs. There would be no lines for people to cross, because people could say exactly what they like about whoever they like. The fact is, we've got to take a stand now, and that's why Ofcom are looking into it. But the BBC should not be taking 3 weeks to come to an adjudication. Both men should be suspended immediately. We shouldn't need 13 sackings like Tim has had before we know where that line is.
Well, Tim,
is this for real?
Tim, I just want to see, is there one thing about that you'd agree with? Not the sacking bit, but the speed, the pace at which this investigation is moving. Do you think we could have a decision a bit more quickly than that?
No, I think it should be done in a full and proper way, and I think if they find out that this message was not left, I genuinely believe they did not leave the message on his phone, and as far as that's concerned, then this should just be water off a duck's back.
Okay,
and as far as taking a stand, Nigel should stand to his feet and walk out. He's wasting his time, and so is the Prime Minister and everybody else who's bothered about this. Get over it.
Well, on that note, we are going to let you all walk out. Must end the interview there. Tim Shaw, Nigel Evans, thank you both very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
And this is Sky News on our website, skynews.com, Decision Time USA, full coverage of the build-up.